Thank you so much, Leanne. And in case you've caught this in the middle, then let me just reintroduce our guest this morning for this interview. I'm with Duma Gqubule, who is, of course, the director of the Center for Economic Development and Transformation, as well as Mazvita Maradzika, executive director of Siyakha Capital Advisor. So thanks so much for staying with us. So talking about this policy, Mazvita, you feel that, you know, we need to tweak what's not working. Duma, you say it's time for a new direction.
It's completely broken. Let me give you an example. Mazvita said that 161 listed companies complied. They didn't comply, they reported. And there are 400 listed companies, so that's a very low level of compliance. The majority of JSE listed companies are not complying. Now, the second thing is how government has messed up its own policy. They allowed this thing called the once empowered, always empowered policy to apply in the mines and the banks. Now, the mines and the banks accounted for 60% of the value that has been created for black shareholders. So basically, there will be no more transactions in the banking and the mining sector. So you can say that the policy is almost over. It's on its last legs. So there's very little transactions that are happening on the JSE over the past 10 years. It's here and there we're seeing transactions. So I'm just saying that the codes of good practice that Mazvita is talking about, they are not working. And let me just give an example. I've worked in companies where they have a level 2 or 3 BE score, and you can't see a black person in the canteen. And what I'm trying to say is that there's no relation between what a company score is for ownership or for the BE codes and the level of transformation in the company. For example, companies are saying that they have 30% black ownership. Those figures are completely bogus figures. Because there's
Why? Is it because of fronting? What are some of the reasons for that?
So the commission says that 30% is black ownership, but the fact is the black ownership is less than 3% of the JSE. So you'll see a company, let me just give you a random example. Pick n Pay has got a score of 16% black ownership. They've never done a BE transaction. So I'm trying to say, so the fact that companies have found ways to game the system, I think it's time to start again. So every single company has found a way to game the system, and that is what I think it's just not working at all. Yeah.
Mazvita?
Well, okay, look, you know, there's certain truths, obviously, to what Duma has mentioned. However, if you look at the introduction of the BE Commission, which is almost 2 years back, they are putting in the time and the work in terms of looking at these structures. And remember, BE is not only just ownership. Remember, you've got your management control, you've got your skills development, you've got your enterprise supply development, and you've got your SED. And you'll find that, as he said, it's not just about the scores, but about the tangible benefit. If you look at SED, most companies, including JSE listed and your other generic entities that are not listed, are meeting their targets. What does that mean? It means that there is a tangible benefit going through to SED beneficiaries. If you look at your enterprise and supply development, while the numbers of SMEs might be declining, right, you still have larger entities that are growing to become generic entities. So you don't have your SMEs that are just staying at SME level, but they're also growing. You know, we see this in the line of work that we do, so we're able to see the tangible change that is actually occurring. And for example, a couple of years ago, Siyakha was asked to do a report on preferential procurement, and we found that our numbers moved from 9% to about 20% in terms of, you know, SMEs that increased.
Now you see, this is the problem for me, because depending on who you speak to, you get a different set of numbers that are being peddled. So when we are told that almost 80% of all South African small businesses fail within the first 3 years, you know, how is BEE helping in this regard to empower these small businesses, which we are told are the lifeblood and what will spur on this economy?
Okay, first, let me talk about corporate social investment. The targets were set too low. The companies were already complying when the targets were set. So we can't celebrate the fact that companies are spending X on social. Now, talking about small business, if you look at the value chains of the large companies, very few of them actually procure from black-owned businesses. And if you look at the banks, there's very little lending to black-owned businesses. And if you look at the development finance institutions, again, there's very little lending to small businesses. So I think the small businesses are the forgotten people in this whole BEE thing. And I think it's actually scandalous, because I was doing some research on the banks, and the average bank spends about 2 billion rands on loans to black businesses. That is a shockingly low number. The National Empowerment Fund is closed. The Small Enterprise SIFA spends about 1 billion rands a year. So that is all that we're getting, let's say 10 billion rands to
shocking.
all the black businesses in the whole country. So, and then the large companies are not procuring from black-owned businesses, because the previous version of the codes made it possible to achieve most of your target without procuring a cent from a black-owned company.
We're out of time. 15 seconds. What needs to be done?
Okay, what needs to be done? Look, a lot of changes, and I think speaking to what we're talking about with SMEs, it's not only BEE policy that's making SMEs fail, it's also access to finance. What can we do? We can improve SME training, SME development, and provide more incentives. Government entities can pay SMEs on time to improve your enterprise supply development, because they don't survive because they're not getting paid.
Duma?
Yes, I agree with all of that, yeah. Okay, yeah.
I tell you what, there's much more to be discussed here, but you know, you make up your mind. Do you think that the policy is viable, or is it time that we looked into it and found something else that could be more effective? Thank you so much to Duma Gqubule, the Director of the Center for Economic Development and Transformation, as well as Mazvita Maradzika, Executive Director of Siyakha Capital Advisor, reflecting on BEE policy. Let's take a break.